Comfort used to say that love was the only wealth a poor soul could truly own. When she was young, she wrapped herself in it like a shawl on cold nights, imagining that it would always be enough. She had no gold, no fine garments, no name that carried power in the town's dusty streets. But she had a heart that dreamed, and she believed that when two hearts beat together, no hunger, no struggle, no cruelty could break them apart. Emanson had been her proof. When they first met, his smile was unpolished, a little shy, yet it carried a warmth that made her forget the noise of the market. He was not the strongest man nor the richest, but he had eyes that searched her face as if she were a secret scripture he was born to study. Love came to them quietly, not as fire but as a steady flame that burned through the years. They married without riches, without the blessing of gold or land. Their wedding meal was simple, their bed borrowed, their roof patched with old iron sheets. Yet Comfort remembered the night Emanson held her hands under the stars and whispered, "What I lack in wealth, I will give in heart. What the world denies us, we will build with love." For years, they lived by those words. They endured hunger, long days of labor, and the gossip of neighbors who measured worth by coins. But they were content, at least, Comfort thought they were. Time, however, is not gentle with promises. Emanson grew tired. His eyes, once soft, hardened with desire for more than the love Comfort could give, more than the sacrifices she offered, more than the nights they spent whispering hope into the dark. He began to hunger for life beyond their humble world. The women in the town saw him. They noticed his tall frame, his quiet charm, the way his laughter rolled when he allowed it. And some of them, dressed in silks that Comfort could never afford, gave him the attention that flattered a weary man's soul. At first, Comfort did not see. Or perhaps she chose not to see. She trusted too deeply, loved too blindly. She thought her embrace was enough to keep him warm, enough to shield him from the temptations of flesh. She thought sacrifice was the highest proof of love. But lust has its own hunger. It does not feed on sacrifice. One night, Emanson came home smelling of perfume that Comfort did not own. She touched his clothes, his skin, searching for the man she knew, but found only distance. When she asked, his voice was heavy with silence. Days turned into weeks, and the truth revealed itself not in words but in absence. The late returns, the coins hidden in corners, the strange gifts that appeared in their home. Emanson had begun to sell himself, not for gold, not for survival, but for desire. Women with means paid for his company, and he, tired of struggling with nothing, accepted. Comfort's heart broke quietly, not with shouts but with a silence that ate her soul. She lay awake beside him, listening to his breath, wondering how love so carefully built could be traded for nights of lust. She wanted to ask, was my embrace not enough? Was my love too poor to keep you? But the words never left her lips. Instead, she bore the pain as she had borne poverty, like a wound carried under clothes, unseen but unhealed. Comfort stayed, not because she was weak, but because love, once planted in her, refused to die. She remembered the boy who had promised her heart, the man who had once whispered dreams under the stars. She believed, perhaps foolishly, that love could heal even lust, that her embrace could still draw him back. She cooked for him, washed his clothes, waited for him in the quiet. She sacrificed her pride, her voice, her tears, believing that one day he would remember. Each morning she prayed not for wealth, not for gifts, but for the return of Emanson's heart. But love cannot bargain with lust. For every night Emanson returned with coins earned from the arms of another, Comfort felt herself vanish a little more. She was the wife married for love, yet she was paid only by the pain of lust. The bed they once shared became a battlefield of ghosts, her embrace no longer the sanctuary it had once been. Still, she stayed, because love, even when wounded, holds on. Years passed like this, heavy and grey. Emanson grew older, his body weary from pleasures that gave him no peace. The women who once admired him turned to younger faces, and soon his coins grew fewer, his steps slower. One evening, he returned home, his hands empty, his face lined with shame. For the first time in years, he looked at Comfort not as a burden, not as the shadow of a life he had abandoned, but as the only truth that had never left him. He fell to his knees before her and wept. The man who had once chased desire, who had sold his body for the fleeting fire of lust, was broken before the woman he had betrayed. Comfort said nothing. She simply opened her arms. Her embrace was not soft. It carried the weight of years of pain, of wounds that never fully healed. Yet it was an embrace all the same, a reminder of the love that had begun the journey. In that moment, Emanson felt what wealth, lust, and vanity had never given him: peace. Comfort's love had not saved him from sin, but it gave him a place to fall when sin abandoned him. And though her heart was scarred, She found strength in the power of her embrace, the strength to forgive, to endure, to remember the boy she once loved even as she held the man he had become. Their story was not a tale of triumph, not a victory of love over lust. It was a story of survival, of sacrifice, of the quiet power of holding on when the world tries to tear love apart. Comfort often thought of what her life could have been, if she had chosen another, if she had left when betrayal first darkened their home. But she also knew that love is not always about joy. Sometimes it is about pain carried with dignity, about sacrifice made without reward. Emanson lived the rest of his days under the weight of regret, yet also under the shelter of comfort's presence. She was the mirror that reflected both his failures and his salvation. He had been married for love, yet he paid her only with the currency of lust. Still, her embrace remained, the final testimony that love, though scarred, can endure even the deepest wounds. And when comfort closed her eyes at last, weary but unbroken, Emanson wept at her side. He whispered into the stillness, "You gave me love when I gave you nothing. You gave me embrace when I gave you wounds. Forgive me, comfort, forgive me." But forgiveness had already been given, long ago, in the silence of her sacrifice.